Once your cheerleaders are properly warmed up, stretched, and conditioned to avoid any injury, it's time for your practice to move into the 5 elements of cheerleading. You should try to touch on each one of these 5 elements at every practice, and they are as follows. Cheer. Cheer is motions with voices. Dance. Pretty self-explanatory. Jumps. We will show you the specific jumps that cheerleaders are required to perform. Tumbling, which is any type of gymnastics that can be done on the floor. And stunting or building. This is any type of lifts or basket tosses that the girls will perform.
Cheer is words with motion. And the first part of that is teaching your cheerleaders the proper words that they're going to say with all of the pronunciations. So that if they're saying something like yell, when they're saying it, you're going to hear the in the yell, not just yeah. In order to do this, we do a voice drill. Ladies, you're going to put your hands below your diaphragm. It's important to teach them that there's lungs and then the diaphragm. They put their hands there. They lay on their backs. Singers do this as well. They push in on their diaphragms as they say the words because it helps them to project their voices louder. Also, girls, you need to make sure your voice comes from there and that you open your mouth wide so that you can hear all of the words that are coming out. It increases your volume. The words we're going to use, ladies, are N-Y-S-C-A. Say that. N-Y-S-C-A. We're number one. We're number one. Okay, now pushing in on your diaphragms, we're going to repeat that 3 times. Are we ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. N-Y-S-C-A. We're number one. Louder, push down. N-Y-S-C-A. Make sure you're pushing in louder. Again. Louder. Okay, stand up on your feet. Hands at ready. Let me hear it nice and loud from the diaphragm. 5, 6, 7, 8. As you can see, that helps get their voices louder, helps them to come from their diaphragm so that their voices project really well for the cheer part of cheerleading.
Once your cheerleaders have the words down, it's time to start learning the motions. Your job as a youth cheerleading coach is to make sure that the kids on your team know proper motion technique. Unfortunately, many kids don't learn the proper technique, and it's very, very hard to go back and reteach. Once bad habits are formed, it's very difficult to reteach proper motion technique. We're going to start off with foot position. When your feet are together, they must be glued together, toes and heels. Many kids will think that this is feet together. You as a coach need to be on top of that all the time to make sure that their feet are all the way together. We want them to be very precise. Your kids need to learn that technique needs to be perfect because as they're getting older, you'll start to forget about that. It will come very naturally to them, and you'll be able to do more fun and challenging things. So, this is a beginning stance. Feet are together, hands are at your sides. Make sure that their fingers and thumbs are glued in and elbows are squeezed down. If you choose for them to be in fists at a clean position, as some coaches do, that's fine. Just make sure that they're tight and pulled in. From here, we're going to pop out to a cheer stance. You'll need to bend your knees slightly and both feet come apart so that the middle of your body stays in your center. A cheer stance means that your feet are wider than shoulder width apart with toes pointed out at a 45-degree angle towards the corners of the room. To get from a cheer stance back to a beginning stance, just bend a little bit and snap all the way in, making sure that your feet are, again, glued together. And those are your 2 basic stances, your beginning stance and your cheer stance. Next, we're going to go into arm motions. The first thing that your cheerleaders need to know before they can do any arm motions is how to make a proper fist. Have your kids look at their hands as if they were wearing mittens with the thumbs out. Fingers curl all the way down and thumbs curl right over the top. Have your cheerleaders look at their fists to make sure that they are flat on top as well as flat on the wrist. Oftentimes you will see cheerleaders with bent wrists or sagging wrists. I will often teach girls to pretend that you have a laser beam or a yardstick attached to the top of your arm so that whatever's coming off of your arm will shoot straight off. If my wrist were up like this, it would bend and shoot up towards the ceiling. This is the proper placement for a fist. Once your kids know how to make fists, you can begin teaching motion placement, and we'll start with the basic motions. The first basic motion is a low V. With your hands and fists, place your fists together at your belly button. Try to keep your elbows and your shoulders in the same place they are now and simply pull the bottom part out. This is your low V. Your placement for a high V is found by placing your knuckles together once again, this time on your forehead. Again, keeping your shoulders and your elbows in the same place. Bring the top part of your arms out. This is your proper placement for a high V. A T motion is simply arms extended at your sides, parallel to the ground. I make sure that I teach my cheerleaders the meaning of the word parallel so that they know that this is not a proper T motion. This is not a proper T motion. It must be straight across and parallel. Most other motions are simply a combination of those three basic motions. For example, a diagonal would be a low V on one side and a high V on the other side. If your kids have the proper placement for their high V and low V, a diagonal will be simple for them to learn. Other variations include breaking motions. This is a broken T. This would be a broken low V. And also motions that have hands on hips, which your fists are still in place and your hands are simply on the waistline. Once your kids have the proper placement for their motions, you can start teaching them how to transition from motion to motion. Denise is going to show you a great drill to help your kids learn how to change motions.
With all of these motions, it's important to do drills with the motions. This first drill that we're going to do is going to combine words with the motions so that the girls know that they have to hit them crisp and clean. You go straight from one motion to another motion. And when they do these, if you could hit a high V, girls, hit a high V for me. If you notice at the front of the wrist, there's a little circle that forms there. And when you teach the girls, you can even have them put their finger inside that. We like to call that the Cheerio. So that way they know that Cheerios are always forward on a high V. Okay? Could you hit a touchdown for me, ladies? Okay? When we go to the touchdown, you'll see a very fleshy part of the palm. Let them touch that. Feel how squishy it is. It's like a cinnamon bun. The arm should be right up to the head with those cinnamon buns forward. So that way Cheerios and cinnamon buns help them to hit the motions tighter. Feet together, ladies. Hands at ready. We're going to do our these 9 motions aren't very hard to do. Okay? 5, 6, 7, 8. These 9 motions aren't very hard to do. Ready? Hit the check mark, please, ladies, at one side. If you notice when you do a check mark, it shouldn't be tight in like this. Kelly's going to position one of our girls to show you a perfect 90-degree angle. You want to make sure that that arm has a 90-degree angle in all of our motions. Because with that 90-degree angle, you'd be able to even put a box in there or a square shape. And that will, the girls will always think of that and they'll keep that motion tight. Hands at ready? The next drill that we're going to do, the girls are going to lay down on the ground on their backs. Because as Kelly pointed out, when we're doing our motions, they're not way out in front or way out in back. They shouldn't be right even with us either. Cheerleaders should be able to see their hands with the peripheral vision out of the corner of their eyes. Doing the motions on the ground, and you can do as many motions as you want, helps them to know that if they're laying on the ground and that motion's touching the ground, their arms aren't in the correct position. Okay, everyone on the ground, feet are together, hands are down at the sides. cheerleaders at practice should always either, whatever your preference is, their feet are together, they should either be in blades with their fingers all glued together, fingers and thumbs at the side, or they should be in the fist. They should never be walking around practice like this or hanging out or with their fingers apart. They should be stiff and strong, always ready to hit a motion. Okay? First motion we're going to do is the high V. High V. Low V. T. Broken T. Touchdown. Hands at ready. Come on up off the ground and get in your line for our last drill. Remember your places so that we line up from tallest to shortest, so it's easiest for the girls to see the placement of their arms. What this next drill does by having them do their motions in a straight line is it helps them to see that their arms are all lined up the way that they're supposed to be. We ready, ladies? Feet together. That's not proper position. Feet together, hands at ready. And let me see a high V. Okay, if we look up and down the line, we should be able to see that their hands are in line with each other, that their motions are tight, that their fists, that their Cheerios are forward. Okay, low V. And as you walk up and down the line as a coach, you're able to see, are they hitting that motion correctly? Are their arms and angles in line the way that they're supposed to be? T. Okay, touchdown. Oh, get those cinnamon buns forward. And hands at ready. Nice job, ladies.